Throughout my life, people have recognized my beauty, but I never attempted to utilize it to my advantage. When I was younger, I wanted to be a model, but that goal stopped when Marco entered my life. We don't need the money, so I don't want you to do it, he explained. And back then, his decision became mine. Now, at 42, I live in the home of the guy who altered my life, together with his son from his first marriage. Nico, 23, recently graduated from university, where he studied photography and visual art. And he's returned home. His space is located on the upper floor of the duplex. It's his creative haven. He drew portraits of women and men. Anyone, actually. Young girls frequently come and go, sitting for his task. At first, I believed it was all about his love of art. However, things changed the day I accidentally left his door slightly open. How could I have predicted that an innocent portrait sketch would lead to this? I'm going to tell you how that one night with Nico evolved into something far more than just assisting him. I know you will criticize me for this, but I can't keep it a secret any longer. Marco had left the house earlier that morning. I went upstairs and found Nico's door slightly ajar. I hadn't planned on going in, but as I walked past, my eyes took sight of the artwork inside. What I saw completely stopped me in my tracks. It was my portrait. What startled me even more was the enormous photo tacked on the wall next to it. It was a snapshot I'd shared on social media years ago. Every line on my face, the depth in my eyes, and the feelings I was experiencing at the time were represented in his picture. I had no idea Nico had been paying so close attention to me. And now that he's downloaded and printed my photo to construct this portrait, I should be afraid, right? But it did not. For a time, I stood motionless at the doorway. My pulse was racing, and I felt a rush of exhilaration as well as something more that I couldn't quite put my finger on. The painting depicted a different version of me. Stronger. More fascinating. Nico had portrayed me as more than I believed I was. My hands trembled when I touched the door frame. I could not stay any longer. I quietly turned and walked back down the steps. My footsteps carried me into the kitchen, but my heart was still racing. The image of that painting remained in my memory. I assumed it was just going to be another piece of art. But I was mistaken. I never dreamed that moment would become a reality. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications for future stories like this. I'm confident that once you've finished listening to this story, you won't be able to resist leaving a remark. Since Nico arrived home, there has been this energy between us. Something I can't quite describe. At first, everything seemed normal, even warm. But over time, I sensed Nico withdrawing. He began to spend more and more time upstairs, shut away in his room, working for hours. His door was typically locked, but the other day it was mistakenly left open for a brief while. I vividly recall that moment. He'd drawn me. He had copied one of my images from social media and recreated it on his canvas. Each brushstroke seemed like it disclosed a piece of me. He seemed to be painting my spirit as well as my face. When I saw that painting, something inside me shifted. I couldn't bring myself to tell Nico about it. The next day, loud sounds from upstairs drew my attention. A girl yelled, her tone harsh and aggressive. Before I could process what had happened, the door to Nico's room swung open and the girl stormed out. Her face was red with rage, and tears streamed down her cheeks as she ran by me in the hallway. My heart raced. Should I head upstairs? I hesitated, torn between staying out of it and discovering what had happened. In the end, I couldn't help myself. I found myself at Nico's door. I knocked quietly. "Nico?" I replied, my voice uncertain. I heard a sigh from the inside. "Come inside," he murmured, his voice exhausted and vulnerable. I pulled the door slightly open and walked inside. He stood in the center of the room, looking at a canvas. The painting was unfinished. The colors and details were beautiful, yet the overall piece appeared incomplete. "What's happening?" I inquired, my tone betraying my concern. Nico lowered his head and gently turned to face me. There was a sense of helplessness in his eyes. "That portrait," he murmured, his voice full of defeat. "I had a deal on it, a large project. The client requested a portrait of a graceful, strong, and gorgeous woman. They promised a large sum of money. But it's not all about money, Judith. This is my reputation. This initiative could help advance my career. But when I began working on that girl's portrait, I realized it wouldn't work. He would not have liked it. I'd have let him down. His voice shook. And now? I need to deliver something new by tomorrow. It's critical. As I listened to his remarks, my heart raced. His eyes were fixed on me, making a wordless request. I was thinking about the artwork I saw the other day, and how Nico was looking at me just now. Nico, what exactly are you asking of me? I spoke, my voice trembling. He gulped hard and took a long breath. Judith, I want to draw you. You are the one who possesses true strength, grace, and beauty. I froze for a time, unsure what to say. But is that even correct? I whispered, barely audible. Nico moved closer, his eyes full of resolve and admiration. Judith, you may not realize it, but it is you. You have all of your beauty, grace, and strength within you. And I need your help to finish this. I don't have time, but I need you. If you agree, we can do it quietly and cooperatively. There was a part of me screaming that I should decline right away. However, another part was drawn to Nico's remarks. His eyes were warm and his voice was honest. And I couldn't quit thinking about the painting I'd seen. The way he looked at me made me feel something. Nico, are you certain? I inquired, catching his gaze. I've never been more confident, he added, his voice low but steady. This is more than simply a painting, Judith. It will change everything. There was a pause. My heart pounded. When my gaze was drawn to Nico's attire, I began to wonder if this was the proper decision. It was a black silk outfit that hugged the body. It left the shoulders bare and hung gracefully, revealing the perfect amount of leg. This is a little much, I responded, putting out a shaky laugh. Nico took another step forward, his gaze warm and unwavering. It will look great on you. And I just want to see you at your best. Trust me, Judith. I took a deep breath. Nico's sincere praises gradually eased my trepidation. I nodded slightly. Okay, let's do it. Nico smiled. That warm, sincere smile alleviated every dread I felt in my heart. And at that point we began to wait for night to fall. But deep down I understood it wasn't just about the painting. Tonight would change everything for both of us. When Marco got home, I tried everything I could to make things appear normal. I remained silent at supper, while Nico pretended nothing was going on. But every time our eyes met, even for a brief moment, the unspoken tension between us weighed thick in the air. When I was certain Marco had fallen asleep, I took a big breath. My heart was beating as I gently walked upstairs to Nico's room. I slowly pushed open the door. The room was illuminated with a lovely, pleasant radiance. Candles glowed in every area, creating a comfortable atmosphere. Soft music played in the background, making the environment even more welcoming. Nico stood in the corner, holding a bottle of wine. He lifted his glass to me. "Welcome," he said calmly yet warmly. "This area," I murmured, analyzing the layout of the room. "It's very well thought out." He smiled faintly as he continued. "Tonight is special. Everything should be ideal for you." I swallowed hard, yet a faint smile came to my lips. Instead of wondering what I was doing, I chose to live in the present moment. Nico motioned to the corner of the room. "I've set up a space for you to get ready, and your dress is over there." I nodded and moved to the corner. Out of the corner of my eye, I realized Nico had turned away from me instead of watching. That modest gesture relieved some of my anxiety. I picked up the dress and slipped it on, checking myself in the mirror. The black silk fit my figure well. My shoulders were bare, and the neckline highlighted my collarbone well. I said, "Nico, I am ready," but my voice was hardly audible. He turned around and locked his gaze on me. They exuded admiration, not the type an artist has for their subject, but the kind a man has for a lady. "Perfect," he murmured, cautiously raising his glass again. "Can you sit in the chair?" I approached the chair he had pointed to. It was exquisite and antique-looking, with a charm that suited the setting. As I sat down, I felt a surge of both exhilaration and nervousness. Nico served me a glass of wine. "You need to unwind tonight, and the wine will help." I took a sip and our gazes met again. "I shouldn't drink too much or I'll relax too much," I remarked with a gentle smile. Nico laughed as he moved his chair over to his easel. "You deserve it. Tonight's all about you. Seeing you, feeling your presence will complete this painting." For a while the room was silent. The passion in the air was evident as Nico's gaze shifted between me and the canvas, his brush moving in methodical strokes. I should have looked away, but I couldn't. I took another sip of wine and looked at him. Isn't it difficult to work like this? I inquired, my tone a mixture of apprehension and affection. Hard. He replied with a slight laugh. Quite the reverse. This feels like the most genuine thing I've ever done. He paused for a moment, lowering his brush and staring directly into my eyes. Judith, do you understand? It's not just about attractiveness. I have never seen somebody so graceful and strong at the same time. His statement stunned me. Nico, you are overdoing it, I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I could tell how profoundly they had touched me. I'm not exaggerating, he explained. His gaze never left mine. I'm so blessed to be sharing this moment with someone like you. Drawing you is more than just job for me. It is a method of understanding you. In that moment, the tension in the room was nearly palpable. He picked up his brush again, but this time he moved more slowly. His gaze kept shifting from the canvas to me. He smiled faintly as he continued. The night is just getting started. When this artwork is finished, nothing will be the same. I took another taste of my wine and I finally realized what he meant. This night was about more than just the portrait. This night was going to transform us. As I sat in the chair, I lost track of time. Nico sat in front of the canvas. Each brushstroke seemed like a piece of his soul. Every now and then, he would pause and look at me. And in his eyes, I saw more than just artist admiration. It was a man's admiration. With the wine in my palm, I found myself relaxing more with each drink. Nico would take a rest about every 30 minutes. During the first break, we barely spoke briefly. His eyes scrutinized me, but he did not cross the limit. By the second break, the line began to blur. I couldn't tell if it was the alcohol or the tension between us. When he approached and softly took my hand, I froze. Judith, you look amazing. He spoke in a pleasant, quiet voice. I remained still for a time, allowing the sensation of his fingers on mine to settle in. During the third break, the line between us nearly disappeared. Nico leaned out and carefully tucked a strand of hair that had fallen over my shoulder back into place. My breath caught. Judith, he continued, his gaze locked on mine. This artwork will not capture your beauty, but I will try. That touch and those words drew us closer with each split. And yet, somehow we managed to stay just on the verge of exceeding that boundary. At the end of the night, 3 hours had passed. Nico made one final stroke with his brush before leaning back and taking a deep breath. It's finished, he announced, his eyes shining with pleasure. Are you ready? I stood up and finished my last sip of wine. I was a little tipsy, but my head was clear. I walked up to him, my heart beating. When I saw the painting, my breath caught. I said this while staring at the canvas. This is great, Nico. The woman in the painting is myself. Nico, however, had not just physically captured me. He had captured something deeper. The emotions in my eyes, the beauty in my posture, and the strength I didn't believe I possessed. Everything was right there on the painting. Nico turned to face me. You are fantastic, Judith. This is more than just a painting of you. It's all about you. Your beauty, your strength, everything. In that time, I was unable to control my feelings. I approached him, throwing my arms over his neck. Thank you, I said softly, my voice shaking. At first, the hug seemed benign. But when Nico placed his arms around my waist and drew closer to my face, something inside of me changed. It seemed as if all barriers between us had vanished. Our breaths interlocked, and the flickering candlelight added to the bizarre atmosphere. Nico, I began to speak. However, the words slipped away. In that instant, I realized his lips were only a breath away from mine, and there seemed to be no way back. Judith, he said, moving closer to me. His eyes locked on mine, and his voice was deep and full of emotion. I need to tell you something. I can't keep it inside anymore. He waited for a few seconds to take a deep breath. I like you, but this isn't simply a crush. I've been feeling this way about you for a long time. I tried to disguise it, but I couldn't. His words filled the room and swept over me like a wave of heat. My heartbeat quickened and my head spun. Nico, this, I muttered. But at that moment I discovered something else. I was pulled to him too, and there was no denying it. Nico moved even near. We were only a breath apart now, and his hands moved gently to my waist. I've seen you this way since I first met you. Judith, you must comprehend this. As he finished speaking, He leaned down and lightly kissed my lips. My breath caught. The warmth of his lips, mixed with the sensation of his hands, completely erased any barriers between us. After the kiss, he peered into my eyes for a time. But the glance was not a query. There was an answer. At that point, there was no going back. My hands reached for the straps of my dress, which I carefully pulled down my shoulders. The silk cloth fell down my torso and pooled at my feet. The candlelight in the room created a glow on my bare skin. I could see Nico's admiration deepen. He didn't say anything. Words were unnecessary in that time. His hands softly wrapped around my waist, drawing me to the enormous couch. That night, everything changed. We could no longer ignore the relationship, the closeness we shared. I sat back on the couch, my heart hammering and my breathing unsteady. Nico gazed into my eyes and smiled softly. He took off his clothing and put them near my dress. Every barrier between us has vanished. He leaned over and softly rested his hands on my waist. When his lips pressed a warm kiss against my neck, a chill rushed down my spine. That shiver was not caused solely by his touch. It came from something massive that I hadn't felt in a long time stirring within me. His lips went slowly from my neck to my shoulder, and I felt an intensity I'd never experienced before. My hands moved almost instinctively to his back. I could feel the strain in his muscles and the heat coming from his body. Nico's breath left a trace on my skin, and each touch drew me closer to him. He whispered to Judith, his voice low and full of emotion. "You are even more gorgeous than I had expected." And with that, everything accelerated. I could sense the sincerity in his remarks as I stared at him, but his strong movements drew me away from my emotions and into something quite different. A wild, unrestrained excitement. His lips touched mine again, this time more passionately and profoundly. My hands made their way into his hair as the intensity of the moment drowned out all other thoughts in my head. With my other hand, I firmly held the couch cover. I strained to keep quiet. I tried to open my eyes, but my body had taken over. My muscles stiffened, and with each touch, I felt waves of electricity rush through me. Nico's kisses trailed lower down my neck. His hands moved across my flesh, creating a path of warmth that ran throughout my body. I submitted myself totally to him, my mind overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. He was over me, his eyes full of surprise and fierce need. His respiration had accelerated, and his voice trembled uncontrollably. "Is this a dream, Judith?" he whispered. At that point, I attempted to open my eyes, but my body had taken over. My eyes remained fixated on the ceiling while my hands grasped the blanket tighter and tighter. Nico leaned in closer, his face mere inches from mine. His lips touched my ear as he whispered, "Judith, you're the one causing me to feel this way." His breathing was shallow and irregular, unlike what I had expected. "You are more real than everything else." He didn't stop. I was trembling so hard that I feared I'd lose myself totally. Nico finally let himself go as well. This was not a dream. This was a reality that I had unconsciously waited for years. Let me say this. Our narrative does not finish here. Stay tuned. If you've made it this far, I know my tale has touched you deeply. There's so much more to tell, and you won't want to miss anything. Make sure to follow, enable notifications, and leave a comment on this story.